Kevlar faithful, welcome back on into the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. My name is Jeffrey. Justin is right next to me. Cavs, Pacers, downtown Cleveland, Sunday, May the 4th. Be with you
Sir.
At 6 o'clock. Tip-off. Game one of the series. Justin, we got some stuff to talk about here. Definitely a better matchup than Miami, obviously. I want to talk about, how you feel the matchup goes. I'm curious to hear your predictions. I think we should give full series predictions. I know mine. I've been already, vocal talking about mine. First of all, I just want to say, how you doing? And what are your initial thoughts headed into this series from a big picture perspective?
Yeah, doing good. Obviously, we get out of our series 4-0 sweep real quick. Pacers, I think they get out in 5, but I think the Damian Lillard injury obviously derails the Bucks there a little bit. I think they picked up a little bit of steam after game 3. But yeah, in terms of matchups, you look at the semifinals for both the Boston Celtics and the Knicks series and for the Cavs and the Pacers series. I think you couldn't really draw up better matchups in the second round, to be honest. If you're looking for entertaining basketball, I think realistically, if I'm just going to give a sneak peek of my preview, realistically, I think each series goes to 6 games.
Yep.
At least. I think both series go to 6 games. And
I think our series, I don't know. I think the Knicks, the only reason I would say the Knicks series doesn't go to 6 games, I'm glad you're bringing this up, is because if Brunson gets hurt, I think Boston cleans up there.
Yeah.
Further, more injured.
I think the Knicks are always at one point it goes down on their team, and it really could just be it for them because Brunson, already carries the load so much for them over there. But if he was the one to go down, they'd be screwed for sure. But for us, it's tough to say 6 games because I never like winning the closing game on the road, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Honestly, it's always hard to predict 4-0. And then it's hard for me to predict winning in 6 because I always hate the idea of you're winning away from the crowd. Not that it's impossible or anything, just that it's always less likely. So then, having to predict a game 7 win is tough in the second round. But this Pacers team is the team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So they're not to be slept on. They have more experience technically in this stage of the game than the Cavs do. So
True.
Very, very fun matchup I think we're going to be in store for.
Yeah, good point. I think a lot of people forget about how last year kind of shook out and that this team was in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, it's good to remind people of that. I'm glad you started there because that's exactly where I was starting actually as well. So just to remind the folks who are out there, Cavs win in 4. Not only do they win in one last game, I'm saying the starters played 3.5 games of minutes.
I mean, Jeff, they're under 30, 3 of them.
This game was a blowout.
In 4 games, 31.5, 30.8, and 30.5 are the highest minute averages. Oof. And Darius Garland is the one with 31.5.
And then flip it over to Indy's game 5. I mean, the Cavs are so let's do kind of the pros and cons here. Cavs at home to start. Okay, you're the home team. Cool. I would say more rest than people think. On the paper, Cavs went 4, Pacers went 5. It's not that big of a difference. The Pacers series wrapped up one day after ours. So they, on paper, it looks like we only have, barely one more day of rest, but it's actually a little bit more than that. As far as the differences that the Cavs are going to face, and I put this out the other day, obviously over on Twitter, but it's I think that the matchups are very intriguing from a height perspective, from a wingspan perspective, from an athleticism perspective. This team, and I'm not saying that I'm not comparing this year's NBA to last year, but I'm just stating that this matchup is reminding me more of the Magic series with us last year. Bigger guards who are bigger than ours, or who play, at a more physical level. They don't have anyone huge. They don't. I think that's an underrated part that no one's really talking about is that they don't have a down low bruiser that me and we've struggled with all year long. Turner's a perimeter guy. Siakam, he could go to the cup, but he's not, that's not his primary of his game. And then, yes, Indy has taller players on their bench. So do we, though. This is why we got a DeAndre Hunter for this series. Ty Jerome, I think plays above his size a little bit, but, you have to contend with Obi Toppin. They do have Thomas Bryant off their bench and, some other guys who are a little bit, lengthier. Jarris Walker. So I'm just curious to hear about what you think this internal matchup looks like as far as even just 1 through 5.
Yeah, 1 through 5, obviously, you always want to talk about that because the Cavs core four will more often than not like beat out, other teams' starting caliber players. Obviously, if you go like position by position, Halliburton kind of beats Garland out just by like a nudge right now, especially with him being questionable for game one.
Yeah.
But then you kind of go like, for lack of a better term, it's band for band. And the only other question mark you have on there is probably like, Strus, like maybe. But even then, it's just like, I think Evan has flourished into his role. Jared is just consistently him. It doesn't matter like what his stats are. You just feel his presence consistently throughout the series. And Donovan, again, I think you get out of game 4 pretty easily, but you also kind of end his like poor slump of a shooting streak with the ball. So I don't know. I think the matchup's really interesting. The part of the game that's going to be, again, fun matchup here, really young teams probably going to have multiple bouts for the years to come in the playoffs. But the Pacers are a much faster team offensively. The pace of their top 10, the pace of they played is top 10. The Miami Heat, bottom 10. So instantly there, like you're going to be challenged defensively with how this team kind of gets out and runs. Something that in years past, the Cavs have been really bad about defending. They've been really bad on transition defense and such like that.
True.
So it's going to be interesting how their length kind of extends them extends the floor and extends them on those type of plays. So it'll be tough. We'll be challenged defensively for sure.
And I said this after we swept in the first round. Like this, this series to me, especially game 1, a little bit of game 2 is going to show me like how Atkinson, prepares in between series and how he's looking at film, how he's coaching the guys, teaching them what to do, making sure that switch is something that to me, I think that's honestly maybe the most important point as far as like a philosophical perspective between the Heat and the Pacers is that it wouldn't surprise me if this game tonight, if the Pacers got out to like a decently sized lead, just because the Cavs either aren't accustomed to the pace or they just got slow walked by Miami. So there might be a little adjustment period is what I'm talking about for this first game. You're going to be at home. The pressure is a little bit more amplified. We know that's what has really been the kryptonite of this Cavs team is when the pressure reaches a super high level. Yeah. There wasn't that many high pressure games during the regular season. Even on the win streaks, it felt like everything was loose and everything was cool. The first game that we lost against Boston was pretty high pressure as far as, this is the first measuring stick on what this team really is. Not that it means a whole lot, but just an observation. Miami, yeah, I mean, they're, 10th seed to end the year. They whittle their way into the 8th seed. There's really no pressure there to, we're infinitely better than them. So I don't think there's any pressure in this series too. I mean, it's two good teams and I think the Cavs are more talented. I think they have more star power and I'm curious to see. This is my next question. What if Garland can't go tonight? What's your starting 5 look like?
Ooh. I almost want to say I would want them to start Hunter for the length. Honestly, I mean, Hunter or Wade. The problem with taking Hunter and Rome off the bench is that I just think that their impact, they thoroughly by themselves, took Miami's bench each game and just obliterated
destroyed them.
Yeah. So I feel like Kenny's firm in his stance of like those two are going to be on the bench first off though. Wade.
Is that why now that you're saying that, is that why you think he starts Merrill?
I think so. Cause
he doesn't really want to start Merrill, but he wants to start Merrill more than messing up the bench.
Here's the brilliant thing about starting Merrill. I think you're obvious with what his role in the game is going to be so early on when you start him.
Stand there and shoot.
And it's also you're starting with him. So they're kind of okay, do we really need to put pressure on him right away, or do we need to focus on Donovan, Evan, Jared Allen instead? Where
Yeah.
it's like he becomes an afterthought in a really bad way because you said we're more talented. The problem that I have with Indiana is like outside of the role player that's going to be really annoying, Nesmith. They're really poor 3-point shooters. Like Halliburton's really poor.
They have the best corner 3-point shooting though in the playoffs so far.
Is that
though,
true?
Which is yes, because I'm saying, and I agree with it because I'm scrolling through Twitter. My list, people are like, if how many people I saw, if the Cavs over help on defense, it's going to be long games. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't bother me really either. Let them shoot for a little bit.
Well, and I like if they get to if like that's their spot. I'm looking at stats. I'm looking at the stats right now. They don't have like Halliburton's shooting 26.8% right now off of 8.2.
Like, and you know how we destroyed Miami by letting just whoever they're random at, like, once again, no disrespect to Indiana. None of these guys are tier 1 guys. Sorry. Yeah. Halliburton is at the top of tier 2, in my opinion. Like
that's where like Garland's like the bottom of, like he's at like the bottom of tier 2 where Halliburton's at
like middle.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
but like Khalil Ware is shooting threes for Miami.
I think Halliburton,
and I'm cackling.
I think Halliburton's like that one player where like he's super annoying in the sense that like he's he's really good at facilitating offenses, and if he does get to start scoring, which I don't think he's actually good at, it's like severely annoying to play against him because I think it just opens up the rest of his team for them to kind of get easy buckets, and that's where like I think the game can really kind of get frustrating because he does that where Mitchell will take like 10 more shot attempts probably.
Sure.
Yeah. Where like he's not facilitating the ball. He's kind of playing hero ball. And that's just something that like again, throughout a sweep, you don't see that much.
Yes.
In a series where there is a bit more talent and it could be a little bit more, if Garland doesn't play, he feels that need to play hero ball. You could see a game 1, a game 2 where the Pacers, like Jeff said, take an early lead and, we just fall behind and never really get back into it.
I don't think it's going to be a big issue. I just need them to I need them to lock in on the change of pace, which we've talked about a lot. And I don't think Indiana is going to turn the ball over like Miami did. I don't think it's going to be an issue for the Cavs, but that's what I need them to react to. Like Miami was so careless with the basketball. Their possessions were so slow where you could get after 4 games, you could kind of get lulled into that, mindset of this is how you play a team. Like Halliburton, he could have some games here where he has, 10 assists and 1 turnover. He's prone to being able to do that. But my biggest concerns for right now, actually, is the health of Darius Garland.
Yeah.
And once again, I've had good interactions with Pacers fans, on social media the past couple of days. They sound like cool people. I know they come from a big basketball town and city and state. I understand that. There's no disrespect to them.
It's growing.
It's just, I think we're more talented. I think should be the clear favorites in the series. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that, but none of my concerns really come from them. None of my concerns come from the Pacers. It comes from like you said, DG being hurt let's say DG's hurt the first or second games. I'm nervous about the Donovan Mitchell hero ball. Like I said, I think Ty Jerome has solved that issue.
Yeah.
That's the most underrated part of Jerome that nobody talks about. He's a really good scorer. He's a good facilitator, and he knows how to take and win and use momentum in a game. He also calms Donovan Mitchell down.
He feels so different from Caris LeVert in the sense that, like,
he's Ricky Rubio. He's better Ricky Rubio.
That's very interesting because it feels like where Caris could only like go off at certain moments and like, in a 40-point game with Donovan, it's like, wow, Caris LeVert's really good.
Next game he's 0 for 12.
Yeah, it's just like the consistency through. And again, you don't get it every single night, but it's because if Ty Jerome's not giving you the usual Ty Jerome, then DeAndre Hunter is probably giving you a bit more. DeAndre Hunter through the first 2 games, not fantastic, not really great. boom, game 3 and 4 comes alive. It's just one of those
and
things.
1
where,
and
like,
2, he wasn't like a negative.
No, he wasn't a negative. He
Yes.
certainly he didn't shoot the ball very well,
Yes.
but again, defended very well.
We have a lot of guys that just are sometimes they're either positives or zeros. With LeVert, with Niang, they could go up to like plus 15, but they could come down to all the way to minus 15.
And just having Jerome and Hunter like be able to be the like essentially like Caris LeVert, like consistent Caris LeVert, and then healthy and like a step above Dean Wade, good on the like wing end. It's just deadly now in the playoffs. Like the 1-2 coming off the bench, it's like, okay, when Garland's healthy and you now have the choice of like, all right, let me bring in the sharpshooter 3-point guy or the lockdown defensive guy or the guy who can swing to the 4 and the 5 to give Evan and Jared Allen a break. Like the team dynamic has shifted so much with just like adding one guy through a trade and getting one guy back through like injury and everything. But I don't know. Looking at this Pacers team, I have to agree. The funny thing that I think of though is the Pacers. There's probably like a two-man group over there who's doing the same exact thing we are right now, looking at us and being like, yeah, we're not really worried about Darius Garland. Yeah, we're not really worried about Jared Allen all that much. And I think that's fair. I think that obviously they're like, yeah, Donovan Mitchell, but we have Tyrese and, Evan Mobley's really
for
good.
Sure.
They like Miles Turner over there. But yeah, I think this is going to probably be like a more memorable series than what most think.
I totally agree. Let's do it. I want to get your thoughts on one kind of interesting, just like general NBA story. Well, it's relevant to our series, but general. Then we'll do predictions. Sure. I'm sure you saw, but at the end of their last series, Halliburton's father getting into it with Giannis. I just have this news article pulled up. What do you think about this? Everything that transpired with him and like the overall like landscape of NBA's competitiveness as far as like this headed into our series. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a factor, but it's kind of interesting.
It's like from one perspective, it's weird because if you like follow the NBA closely, like I try to do, that like this is kind of similar to the Ja Morant stuff with his dad.
Yes.
And like it's just it's again, Halliburton. If you look at Halliburton, how he handled it, great. He did good. The way that Ja has, handled himself, handled that situation in the past and whatnot, he's kind of faded out of like relevancy and stuff. And so like, I just think like one, as a person going to support, I guess you're like kin and whatnot, it's tough to like, I'm trying to think of like, if my brother or like someone I knew that's related to me was at that level of like,
it's probably like more annoying than anything.
Well, I think about Patrick Mahomes, and how like that dude is easily like he was at the top of the height of being an NFL star, and he's got two of the most like degrading people just consistently dragging his name, and it's like, what are you going to do about that? But regardless, I digress. I think my thing was, there's a very real possibility that this Indiana Pacers team, like kind of like the Pistons, they're kind of fake tough guys, whereas the Pistons are real tough guys. And I think they kind of feed off of energy way more. Like I feel like when they're at home, they're probably a really good team because they feed off of that energy. But I don't know. I think that we have like a type of just a vibe to our team where like we kind of don't put up with like the fakeness of a lot of these teams. And I think that's kind of where you saw it with Harrow, where it's like, yeah, Darius calls him out and everything, but he's like not necessarily calling him out because it's false. He's calling him out on a legitimate thing.
He's talking basketball, really.
Yeah,
but
he's talking basketball, and it's kind of just like what I feel like they've always done. And hopefully they're just able to maintain their composure while also being able to like deflate the Pacers in their runs and their moments of like what they think is something to turn around and get up about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad he's not going to be there because, like I said, like remembering to go into the Cavs Knicks game one a couple years ago, like the Knicks. I get it, that's sports and everything, but I don't want to see all these Indy fans and all these people in Cleveland. I mean, it's just.
Oh, I don't think that's going to be an issue.
No,
I don't think.
Although
so Indy, I mean, the track's not awful, so
yeah. I mean, there might be some Indy, but yeah, obviously it's going to be, it's going to be good to have Cavs home crowd. So I'll remind everybody, it's a 7-game series. The Cavs, the onus is back on the Cavs. You defend 2 at home. Then we go. Obviously, you take 1 game at a time, but your primary goal in a series to not only win game 1 is to win both your home games. If the Pacers steal a road game, so be it. It's not going to be the end of the series, but that would be them doing their job. Then the game 3 gets even more curious if one of these games splits in Cleveland because you're on the road and you're not in the most optimal position.
The problem with the Pacers that I want to just put out there really quickly is they need to win. I think they desperately need to win a game on the road.
Absolutely.
I think after witnessing Kenny Atkinson win 2 games on the road and then flip the script on Miami, flip the script on Eric Spoelstra and just wax them,
destroy them.
It's kind of I would be concerned as an opposing team if I could not win a game on the road to come back home to.
Totally agree, honestly. And here's the thing: there's 7 individual games. A blowout here doesn't mean that means nothing for the next game, and vice versa. Close games don't mean the next game can't be not close. You got to play each individual game. Give me the Cavs in 6, and I will put this out there. I don't like making too deep into the weed predictions, but I will put this out there. If the Cavs lose a game, and even if the game was close, but the final score might not, games like that, it's close for most of the game. And then, Indy pulls away in the 4th quarter and we lose by 15.
Yeah.
Don't panic. That's what I'll tell the Cavs faithful. That's what I'm going to tell myself. Just don't panic.
There'll be a night where Hunter and Jerome don't combine for 20 and they have some sort of misfire. It'll happen. I'm sure this team, again, they're 3-point plentiful, this Cavs team. So, you kind of live and die by that, but hopefully...
I'm not going to panic on final scores. I'm going to panic on not eye test, but if I see the offense changing philosophically, and that's where I start to get nervous. That's my opinion. The final scores are the final scores at the end of the day, but it's if I see a tangible shift from everything that I've witnessed from this Cavs team all year long, that's when I'm going to start to have questions. But I don't think we're going to see that.
No, I agree.
What do you think?
I'm gonna go 5.
Cavs I just think 5. You think 5? You think now? Here's the thing: are you saying Cavs in 5 or are you a Cavs in 5 or Cavs in 7? Because I've seen that prediction where you don't like the 6th game.
I don't like 6 games.
I know
it's tough for me, and I think it's because of just Indiana.
Yeah.
Specifically, if we had the Knicks in 6 games, I think I'd be comfortable with that. To be honest with you, there's something about the Knicks that I'm just not a believer in, and it might just be because.
Oh, I would say Cavs in 4 or 5 if we were playing the Knicks. Just to be truthfully honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to predict that, it would probably be 5 there too. Yep. I think my reasoning for wanting 5 is because we handled Miami so easily. There's a chance that the Cavs could do it, and that the Pacers win game 3 out of desperation, or game 4 out of desperation, and then it's just kind of unfortunately we got to let you go here. I feel it'll kind of go I'll say this, I think it might just go how Boston, Orlando did, where it's okay, yeah, you can kind of tell
they steal a game.
Yeah, you can tell that Boston this, and it looks competitive in the beginning, but then it's just they're the better team. I think that's what happens.
Right. Yeah, some close game. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I expect Indy to keep it close. I don't expect 4 blowouts for wins.
Absolutely.
But yeah, if I had to say, honestly, Cavs in 6, and I would say Boston in 5. And Cavs Boston final or Eastern Conference Finals. If I were betting right now, that would be what I would say.
I'd go Cavs 5. I'll go Celtics in. Man, that's hard to say. 5. That's hard to say. I just said I wouldn't do 6 for them there, but I'll go 5-6. I think Cavs in 5, Celtics in 6. I think Knicks would bring lights out series though. There'd be a lot of media coverage there.
Absolutely, fair enough. Well,
especially with I'll make this point before it happens. I think Jaylen Brown's probably getting traded this season. After this season,
really,
I think there's I'm gonna throw a scenario out there, just final thing. I think If the Knicks
Dang.
win, I think for sure if the Knicks win this series against the Celtics, Jaylen Brown is 1,000% gone next season.
Okay, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Little talking shop at general talking shop at the end. Love it. Well, if you guys are still here, like button, comment down below, subscribe. Give us your predictions. Cavs in 4, 5, 6, 7. Pacers fans, welcome into the chat. If you think the Pacers are going to sweep, more power to you. Respectfully disagree, but yeah, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you being the pulse of it all. Peace.